All right. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? All right. Welcome to the Managing Coronavirus Uncertainty breakout panel, our last breakout panel of the day. We are going to do something a little bit different than other breakouts in that this is a peer-to-peer conversation of, from, by, for TCOs. One thing to keep in mind is we very much love to weave the participants in. We'd love to have your name, your burner name, and your camp. So if you haven't already, please change your profile so that we can get your name and camp. So this breakout session is brought to you by a relatively new program in the Burnerverse called Camp, which is really TCOs helping TCOs. It's the Camp Advisory and Mentorship Program. We're part of the new camp support efforts, which is trying to roll out a series of projects and tools and efforts to support TCOs and support camps. What Camp does is we match experienced veteran TCOs and subject matter experts with camps that are looking for a helping hand. All types of camps are welcome to participate in camp, vehicle support camps, art support camps, transport camps, not just theme camps. And the assistants, we form a relationship, or we create a relationship between an advisor and a camp that can last from a few weeks to an entire burn season. And the advisor, it's not a drill sergeant. It's not someone that gets parachuted in to solve your problems. It is a sounding board, a resource for you, someone to talk to, someone to get ideas from, and to bounce ideas off of. We've got quite a few people that are participating in that program, but we would love more. We would love more camps. We would love more advisors. And we'll talk about how to do that at the end. So I want to kick things off by introducing the folks that are on this panel. And I'm going to see if I can round them up here. The first is Yeti here?
I am. Hi.
Hello, Yeti. You want to tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. I am the TCO of the BRC HOA Village. We are a fine collection of various camps, about 8 or 9 camps, depending on the year. Also on the Camp Support Council and co-lead of the Camp Advisory and Mentorship Program with our friend Sandor here.
Thank you. Well, I'm next on this list here, so I'll go. So I'm TCO of Hoopla. Hoopla is a Houston-based camp. We provide breakfast tacos and carnival games out on the playa. I'm also a lead for a regional community in Houston called Burning Man Houston and the Heartburn, Texas Regional Burn. We've got mutant vehicles, we've got a warehouse, we've got a 501c3 nonprofit. We're active year round in the Houston area. And so that's me. I'm also, as Yeti said, I've gotten involved as co-lead of camp and looking forward to help building that effort. Captain Vic, you out there?
Yep. Yeah, I'm here.
Please tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. My first year at Burning Man was 2002. In 2003, from then till now, I've been a theme camp lead. Our camp is Children of Chaos. We're in the 6 o'clock sector late. We've been all over the city, but the last few years we've been in the 6 o'clock sector. I'm on the Camp Support Council, and I'm heading up a special project to encourage stories about theme camps. Not so much personal transformation, but how camps work, where they get their inspiration, how they do their thing. Interesting stories about camps. If any of you are interested in that, please let me know. And I'm a part of this camp support project where we're matching up camps with longtime advisors, and I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. Next is Laughing John.
Hello, everybody. I'm laughing, John. I am the I'm a co-founder and co-lead of BRC 3PO, the Black Rock City 3 o'clock post office. We specialize in creative interaction. We are a creative interaction theme camp that uses postal services as a means for creating thousands of fascinating one-on-one conversations and in the process generate lots of mail. We sent out 7,500 pieces of mail to 62 countries last year, plus delivered mail on the playa. And I'm very glad to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And then switch to the page here. Fixer, are you fully reclined there?
That away. Looks that way. I'm at camp. I'm on playa. Yeah, I'm
Tell us
Fixer.
a little bit about you,
Camp.
Fixer.
I'm Fixer from Root Pile Camp. We are a camp, about 150 people. First time on the playa, 2012. Grown from 17 people to 150 people since then. We do live music, live bluegrass music every night. We serve barbecue for about 200 people. We also do workshops during the day. We have an art car stage that goes around and play bluegrass at night. And that's about it for me.
Great. Thank you, panelists, for being here. Who is not here? Anyone in a leadership position from the Burning Man Project. You know, as I mentioned earlier, this is purely a peer-to-peer conversation. This is our opportunity to compare notes and help each other. That said, I'm going to be taking notes. We've got some notes. This is the second session or second time we've done this. I've got notes from the first session. I'm going to add to it with whatever comes out of our conversation here, things to take back to the org, questions or suggestions. I am going to then be very active about spreading the answers to those in the different groups that are out on Facebook, ePlaya, and we'll talk more about that at the end. So what's the plan for this breakout? We're going to go through a bit of an introduction, and then we're going to spend about 15 minutes on 4 key topics: dues, tickets, dues, deposits, and projects. First, I'm going to go through some common questions. I'm going to give you a sense of how my camp, Hoopla, is tackling those things. Then we're going to go to our panelists, and we're going to ask them how they're tackling those questions. And then we're going to throw it open to the group of you. And right now, there is about 50 of you out there. We'd love to hear from you as well. We want to share ideas. We want to try and help each other. If you'd like to speak or you have something to say or something to add, please in chat type 1 and then what you'd like to say or add, or hand and then what you'd like to say or add. We're assisted by Shannon. She is our technical moderator. She's going to help flow those questions and those comments into us so that we can get you heard. We're also going to reserve some time at the end for general questions, comments, things that you want to add that maybe we missed. And then finally, this is meant to be the beginning of these conversations, not the end all be all. We are going to hit these things relatively quickly and at a relatively high level. We want to have weeks, months of in-depth conversation about these topics online, Facebook, ePlaya, some other places that we're going to mention. We want to help each other and keep those conversations going afterwards. So where are we now? And I'm going to update this a little bit from when these slides were prepared based on what we heard from Marion this morning. So coronavirus cases continue to rise. Experts are not in any kind of agreement about when things might get better. I've read everything from a couple of weeks to 18 months. So it creates a ton of uncertainty. But already, many of our camps and campmates have been strongly impacted by all of this. Mental health, physical health. I've certainly had some folks get sick. People have lost their jobs or been furloughed. We can't gather, at least in Houston. I know on the West Coast, East Coast, a lot of folks are facing similar sort of stay in place and don't gather orders, and greatly making it difficult to do what we're normally doing right now, which is starting to get ready for Burning Man. For all we know right now, Burning Man's still on. Burning Man has not been canceled. We've got ticket sales coming up. We've got placement, mutant vehicle, all sorts of deadlines that are coming up you have to apply for. We got reservations we need to make with service providers. We got progress milestones on projects that we might want to bring. We heard this morning that the main sale has been delayed until towards the end of April, around the same time that they're going to make a decision, a go, no-go decision about Burning Man. But all of that is still unresolved, although I was very encouraged with what I heard today about how they're really trying to think through what it might mean to postpone it and what to do with tickets and all of that. But what it means for us is there's a ton of uncertainty. And my background, I'm a distressed consultant. So they parachute me into situations where companies are facing bankruptcy or and real crisis. And so this is not unlike what I have dealt with professionally and thinking through what to do when you don't really know what's going to happen. And what we typically do in my sorts of professional situations, and what we're certainly doing with my camp, is we're planning for multiple scenarios. Now, your scenarios are greatly dictated by what you think is going to happen and what might happen and where the personal circumstances of your camp. But for my camp, we're very focused on 3 scenarios. One is that things get better in the late spring, allowing a couple of months to gather and get ready for a Burning Man that still happens. The second scenario that we're considering, things don't get better in the late spring and early summer, and Burning Man is canceled. And what does that mean? And then C, a vaccine is slow to develop. Coronavirus remains out there and maybe becomes seasonal, and that Burning Man in 2021 is also impacted. And then you may have a scenario D, you may have different scenarios, but the process of doing some planning for different outcomes is something that we wanted to share is a very helpful way to approach this sort of uncertainty. So in conjunction with those different scenarios, what we often do is we focus in on a couple of key areas. And 4 key areas that we have identified for camps to look at, and what we're certainly looking at in my camp, Hoopla, are tickets. You got upcoming sales. You've got tickets that might need to be resold. You have settling up for people that bought 2 tickets, but really only intended to keep 1. This second bullet's dated at this point, but we've got a sale that's postponed and we're not sure what's going to happen with that. If the event gets canceled, what happens with tickets? There's a lot going on with tickets. Second topic is dues. And that's sort of wrapped up with the idea of bringing new people into the camp. And do you offer refunds if the event doesn't happen? Do you keep some of that money because you need to cover expenses for the rest of 2020 going into 2021? What do you do? Deposits, and this is more outwardly focused. So maybe you have a truck reservation, or maybe you bring in some OSS, or you have some projects that you're getting help with in wherever your camp is located. Maybe you've already paid some money and you're not sure, do you need to keep making progress payments? Or, is there a chance that the people that you've contracted with are going to back out on you because their business is an essential business wherever you are and they're locked down? Finally, projects. And this is a very broad catch-all. How do you think about planning? What fundraising? How do you think about trying to advance something that you might be building, or maybe changes that you wanted to make your camp, new infrastructure? How do you go through all of those things? Now, those are 4 areas that we're going to hit on. That certainly isn't the full list, and there should certainly be more things on that list, and maybe for you a different focus list. But those are the 4 that we're going to focus on today as a starting place. And so what I'd like to do is go ahead and roll in to the first topic, which is tickets. So these are the sorts of questions that have been filtered up from our camp and that we're looking at right now. The main sale is coming up. Do we participate or not in the main sale? Some of our campmates bought tickets in the DGS and now need to settle up. They only intended to keep 1 ticket. And what do they do about settling up with their second ticket, given there's no transfer tool right now? Some campmates bought or reserved tickets and now need to drop out, either because their financial circumstances have changed, or they've gotten sick, or something else that they need to take care of family members, or they're immunocompromised. How do we handle those folks? And then what do we do with tickets if the event is postponed or canceled? Is the camp, how do tickets sort of relate or people that have the ability to go this year that maybe can't go next year? How is that going to work? Should we in our camp sell extra tickets? If we have tickets we're not going to use, do we sell them? Do we keep them? If we sell them, to whom would we sell them and at what price? Do we sell them for face? Do we sell them for some discount to face? So these are all bubbling up in our camp, and let me take a moment to tell you how we're addressing these questions, and then I want to throw it open to the panel. So
Andrew, sorry to interrupt you. Would you mind unsharing the screen so we can all see each other?
Yes, for sure. So for our camp, we are focused on being somewhat conservative. Normally, we are a 50-person camp. We got, I believe, 24 tickets in the DGS cell. So we're most likely going to be a 24-person camp this year. We're not going to participate in the main cell. We're going to scale back with the things that we bring. We were going to build a new art car. We're not going to do that. We were going to rebuild part of our infrastructure. We're not going to do that. We're going to clean up some things in our camp, but it's more about refreshing what we have versus doing a lot of new projects. Our camp has some extra money, and we have some people in our camp who have offered to backstop people in our camp that need liquidity, which means the camp is going to step in and buy tickets to provide to other people using camp funds. And then some people in our camp that have the ability to do so are going to buy tickets from campmates to provide them with money that they need right now. We have some people that have lost their job and they need liquidity right now. They didn't intend to buy 2 tickets. It's sitting on their credit card, racking up interest. And so that's how we're approaching that. And then in terms of, what do we do thinking about next year? Again, our camp is going to backstop anyone that can't go. We're going to step in financially and support them as we can. We're providing people with education. We're going to have a big conversation with all the things that we learned today, let everybody know. But we're going to be very free and open about letting people what they think need. It's the best thing to do for them. And we're going to do our very, very best to make them whole when we can. So what I'd like to do is now throw this out to our panel. Yeti, why don't we start with you? How are you and your camp approaching tickets?
Sure. My camp's pretty small. We're 10 to 15 people, and we're mostly, I think, mostly covered by DGS as you are currently. And the village as a whole, I know everybody's sort of taking if Burning Man happens, we're coming, and if we have a ticket, great. If we don't, we're not coming. So it's very much a wait and see. And I'm glad that they've pushed the main sale so we can all have a little more information as going forward. But it's very wait and see on the tickets, but not panicking yet about unloading them if we need to.
Okay, thank you. Laughing John, what are you guys doing?
Well, first thing for us is dealing with the kind of the emotional impact of uncertainty, because can lead to really a lot of insecurity and panic and all kinds of emotions if there's uncertainty. And I'm a big fan, and we practice collaborative leadership at BRC 3PO, but I think there's a place for TCOs to also take personal leadership. And I think this is something we're seeing the consequences of that not happening on a national level in our country, but you can make it happen in your camp. So if you are, say, immunocompromised and you're not going to go to Burning Man, you just say, hell no, there's no way I'm going to go to Burning Man this year. I can't. But if you're like me, am I going to go to Burning Man if it happens? Fuck yeah, I'm going to go to Burning Man if it happens. And well, what about my camp? What if most people can't make it? Will my camp have it happen? Well, I can take the stance of fuck yeah, my camp's going to happen. I don't care if there's 3 of us out there. We're going to make BRC 3PO happen. We're normally 48, but if Burning Man doesn't happen, and I think that's a very possible or even likely scenario, then are we going to keep our camp community together of 48 people? fuck yeah, we're going to keep our camp together until 2021 and do things to support our camp and see if our camp can do things to support our community. So I think first thing, even if you're not feeling it, if you just express that kind of stake in the ground confidence, it can make a big difference for your camp. And so now I'll talk a little bit about our ticket situation. So at this point, there's individuals who are stepping up to back up people who are financially more insecure. So the more financially secure are helping backstop the financially insecure. In my case, I'm backstopping at this point 5 tickets. I figure the most I'm at risk is what if Burning Man is canceled, it'll be if there's a gap between the face value and what's refunded, that's what I'm at risk for. And I'm okay with that risk. And that's different from campmate to campmate. So we're supporting each other.
Thank you. Captain Vic, what are y'all doing in your camp?
Oh, I think much the same as what Laughing John described. There are people that are dedicated to going no matter what, hell or high water. There are others that I think won't go. We have a lot of people over 70 in our camp, and some of them have health issues. And the other thing is that we have some business owners in our camp that are really uncertain about their financial situation. And they're just not, they can't make a decision yet. They're waiting to see how long these business closures last and how deep the recession goes. They just can't make a decision yet. And so they're stalling around on the main sale until maybe the end of April or 1st of May is good, because I think hopefully we'll have a better idea of what's going on economically by then. So there's a lot of wait and see going on. Several people have stepped up in our camp to offer to help financially carry us over. We have expenses, we have storage. We have a storage unit that runs about $100 a month. And we've got some people who have stepped up and said if they can help support that. We definitely, if they don't have Burning Man this year, we're definitely going in 21. And we're waiting to see how bad the situation in our society is. So far, everybody's healthy. To my knowledge, nobody's gotten the virus yet. But we're nervous about that, of course. That's what we're up to.
Thank you. Fixer, what are you guys doing ticket-wise?
Well, you were a 150-person camp, and first, what are we doing other than ticket-wise? I'm planning for the next burn like I always do. I don't care if it's 2020 or 2021 or 2022. I'm planning for the next burn. I'm trying to grow my core family for our camp with people that believe in what we do and our mission, which we already have. Probably about 60 people that are truly core team leads and that kind of thing. We're a highly interactive camp with a large gifting component also. It takes 142 two-hour shifts every day to run our camp. So it's going to be very hard for me to run a skeleton camp, but I will. But I'm not planning for this year. I'm planning for the next burn. Our DGS allocation is fairly high, but at the same time, with the timing of the DGS allocations and the announcements of how many we have, and then the subsequent sale being so tight always, I don't think any large camp knows exactly who are going to be holding and using those DGS tickets. Maybe in a 20-person camp, okay, but a 150-person camp, no. So we have a lot of people sitting on extra tickets, which is a very big concern to me, because I am the one that went to these people and said, I need you to buy an extra ticket. It's gold. Don't worry, you're not going to lose the money. And now they're very likely to lose the money. So we're still pushing hard to grow camp, and I'm adding people to camp because we're growing our camp for the next burn, not this burn. And if I can get if I can add enough people to camp by finding believers, which I'm finding, believe it or not, people that believe in what we do and are believing that the burn is going to happen this year or next year, then if I can get all of my people on a level playing field where they're only risking one ticket on their credit card or whatever, then that's when I'll feel the best, and I'll grow my camp from there. But as long as I have people that are stuck from 2 to 4 tickets, sometimes people on that have facilitated even more tickets than an extra, then I don't feel good about it. And so that's what I'm trying to do is, and the fact that there's no transfer tool is tough. I'm not sure how to do it. So with no transfer tool till after the main sale, I think it's going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal because if the main sale doesn't sell out, then good luck adding people to your camp, because they're not going to want to buy a DGS ticket and join your camp when they don't know for sure they have that ticket.
Yeah.
And so,
well, and for everyone's benefit, at the top of the list of questions that I've been taking from the earlier panel and reemphasizing now, question going right into placement to ask, what's going on with the transfer tool? Is that something that we can open up now? Is that something we can open sooner to help sort of facilitate those of you that really need that to get money and to get tickets in the right place?
Yep.
Great. Shannon, do we have any questions that we can get from the audience? Again, if you'd like to ask a question or you'd like to comment or provide us with your insight, please type 1 or hand and then what you'd like to say, and we'll try and get your mic opened up so that you can speak.
Yeah, hi everyone. One of the first questions was around the main sale, and Captain Vic, you just answered that a little bit. Somebody's asking, when is the main sale actually postponed to? I can't find anything on it. Still says April 8th.
they didn't announce it. They just said it was going to be postponed. That's all. But the level.
Well, what Marion said today was that she thought that it would be delayed until maybe the 3rd week of April, and then she later said, "Well, I don't want to go forward with the main sale if we're not going to hold Burning Man in 2020." So I'm reading between the lines. Yeah.
But Level did say today that the transfer tool will be turned on 1 week after the main sale, whenever the main sale will be. So that's the only set thing I've heard so far about anything about tickets.
So the answer is it is postponed. We are not sure yet when it's going to be postponed to. We heard that late April, early May timeframe, they're trying to make a go, no-go decision on Burning Man, but that timeline could change depending on conditions across the country. And I guess we're all sort of waiting to see, but it is the main sale is definitely postponed.
One of the next questions was around registration. Is it still on for April 1st?
I'm sure that'll go part and parcel together. Whenever they postpone the main sale to, that'll be linked with the registration period.
That's all I see for now in the chat.
Okay, great. So I'm going to share my slides again, and we're going to go on to the next topic. Okay, so dues. These are the sorts of questions that we're getting in our camp. Do we keep adding campmates? Do we, scale down, scale up? What's the right way to proceed? What do we charge these people? We normally have a dues amount that we charge. Are we going to ask that of people? If we do take that money in, are we going to refund it? Are we going to make some sort of adjustment for expenses, ongoing expenses that the camp has? If Burning Man doesn't happen, are we going to give credit for dues for next year? How do we do that? If we offer refunds, can we still make our budget? We had planned to do some things this year financially, things that we're going to buy, things we're going to build. Can we do that if we offer dues refunds or scale down? We took dues in already before the DGS sale, but given the way things look right now, we may not have taken in the right amount. How do we approach that? What do we do? So let me answer these from a Hoopla standpoint. We'll go through the same process again when we throw it back into the panel. As I said earlier with Hoopla, we are sort of waiting and we're going to see what happens with the event. So we are not adding any more campmates right now. We've sort of cut off our camp size, about half of where it was last year at our DGS cap. We are certainly going to offer refunds for people that need to drop out. We are encouraging people to donate that money if they're financially able, so that we can help fund the expenses of the camp going forward. we are taking a very, very hard look at our budget for 2020 and 2021, and we are scaling it down. And if we do have Burning Man for 2020, we're going to be spending less and hopefully giving more money back. But for 2021, we're going bigger, we're going better, faster, harder. It's going to be certainly a big and bold return to the playa for our camp. We want to do it up big. For the folks that we've taken in dues already, like I said, we're going to be very, very flexible with what we do with folks. We have a lot of people who've lost their jobs. We have a lot of people that are in tough circumstances. So we're trying to take care of our people. But that is what Hoopla is doing. I'm going to stop sharing so that we can see everyone's face again. And then I'd like to start with Yeti. Yeti, what are you guys doing?
Sure. We're a small camp, and mostly what we do is we kind of split everything up after the fact. So there's not a lot of dues collection leading up to the burn. We always sort of do a big accounting settlement afterwards. Our biggest overhead is the storage container, which I think everybody would be fine just, kind of paying for it. And if it doesn't go this year, it doesn't go. But yeah, that's it. We're smallish. If you can do that as a camp, then great. But I know that with larger camps, it's really hard to not have the funds up front to start planning and getting things in order.
Captain Vic, what are y'all doing?
We have not collected dues yet. We don't usually do that until June or so. So that's not an issue for us yet. We're going to have to take up a collection. If the burn doesn't happen, we're going to have to take up a collection to handle our storage unit. We're a camp of about 30, so it's not too complex for us. I don't have much to offer with regard to camp dues.
Thank you. Laughing John, what are y'all doing?
Well, my expectation is that if Burning Man happens, it's likely we'll be smaller than we are now. So we'd have less dues likely that would be collecting. But, my first year was 1998. And in those years, pretty much every theme camp, whether they're placed or unplaced, operated on the cheap. And you know what? I don't think people had any less fun at Burning Man in 1998 than they do now. So I think it's an opportunity to be creative, look at how you might be able to downscale, do things that are less expensive, but just as interactive and even maybe more interactive because you're kind of pushed into having to be more creative and inventive and innovative in terms of how you're going to be presenting yourselves to Black Rock City. We also haven't collected our dues yet for this year. We're not in that position of having to kind of pay back dues or not, but we do also have ongoing expenses. So, we'll be deciding that once we have more certainty over whether Burning Man's going to happen.
Thank you. Fixer, what are y'all doing?
Well, I think we're probably the biggest camp here in the panelist list, but we're 150 people. And so we usually, we allocate most of our DGS tickets to team leads, returning team leads or new team leads. And so we always have those people put up our dues escalate based on when you pay them, but we always have people put up their dues when they get their DGS ticket, because we want to make sure that they are truly in camp before we let them have a DGS ticket. And so typically, as I know a lot of camps in mid-size and large size do, they will take some of their early revenue and use that to repay people for the extra DGS that have been bought, and the ones that you haven't had time to allocate yet, or people that don't have the money yet to buy, the fact that the DGS sale is so early. And so right now, most of our dues has gone into paying for some of those tickets. So we're still adding people to camp so that we can make whole the people who are sitting on DGS tickets. And we're not asking dues from new people right now, of course. So we're not generating any dues, but we have a pretty large off-play expense, about $1,500 a month for various storage and keeping vehicles licensed and repaired and insured. So, personally, I'm looking at $1,500 a month expenses if the event doesn't go. So we probably won't be able to return as much dues as I would like based on who's paid in so far. But you know, we're not a completely a typical camp, but I think we're a pretty typical camp for our size, actually. So that's where we're at.
Thank you. Shannon, is there anyone out there that we can weave into the conversation? That's
Yeah, 1 second. It's one question. I have two. One question is, if BRC happens, but my camp decides not to go due to larger financial reasons, and we don't use our DGS tickets this year, are we SOL for DGS next year?
well, and that is that came out in the first session as well, and it's sort of wrapped up into the idea that, you know, if you do something different this year, you don't go, or you do something smaller, you know, how does that sort of weave into DGS for next year? And you know, what will it mean for camps that are trying to return? And, you know, I think if you have DGS tickets and you don't go, that's maybe a little bit different than if you go but scale back what you do. But either way, you know, we don't have answers to those questions yet. And those are things that we're certainly going to follow up with placement. I think that's an area where we need more clarification. Yeti, I know you talked a bit with Level about this. Can you maybe provide some insights?
Yeah, I would say, you know, we've had camps in the village who they get their DGS tickets and then they're like, you know, we can't go this year. And we communicate with placement that, hey, this camp's not going, but that doesn't really affect our DGS allotment for the following year, or it hasn't. Because placement knows that, you know, things happen all the time. You know, camps shrink, camps grow. So whether it's you have your DGS and you don't go, or you have to scale it back because you thought, you know, 50 people were coming and only 25 can go. As long as you're communicating that to placement and letting them know that the things are changing and you know, they know what's going on in the world, and we all are trying to make this work as we go along. So they, you know, they're not going to hold you to the interactivity you promised with 50 people if you only have 20, 25 people. So you know, again, they'll compare similar size camps to similar size camps. They're not going to be unreasonable. But again, communicate to them that that's happening. Don't just show up with 25 people and be like, oh, we didn't tell you, but we have fewer this time.
Yeah. Placement at burningman.org. You know, I think especially now, everyone should be aggressive about asking any questions where you need help or more information. We also have camp support at burningman.org. That's a help desk that we're doing through our effort. We can help try and get answers to your questions. The main takeaway, I think, from what Yeti's saying, and I hope people really sort of focus in on, is communication. Don't feel bashful about sending emails, asking questions. These are extraordinary times, and we all need to be very active about asking questions and getting the information that you need.
Sandor, can I say something?
Please.
Keep in mind that your DGS allocation is really based on what you did last year. It's kind of like a gift for what you did last year. So, but you got to realize that now we're kind of in a bridge situation with the new culture direction setting changes with camp criteria and the expectations from placement for you to get placement and to get DGS. If you understand the mutant vehicle DGS allocation, when you apply for a mutant vehicle, you have to tell exactly what you need those tickets for. And I think that the new placement criteria, and that's already been released, but the new placement criteria is going to be a little bit more like that. So keep in mind that your DGS that you're sitting on right now, that was for last year. And if you, when you apply this year, keep in mind, and we didn't get to this last, the other panel a minute ago, I talked to Sandra about it between the panels, that keep in mind that when you're doing your placement application this year, keep in mind that there's new criteria. So don't overcommit, but also don't undercommit. Just say what you're planning and hoping to do, because that's what placement wants to see. That's the new culture direction setting of placement, is there's going to be more expectations for interactivity and gifting and frontage and all of that. So keep that in mind, that your next year DGS allocation will probably be a little more related on what you said you were going to do this year and what you actually did this year. Not exactly, it's going to be a hard thing. Placement's going to have to be a little bit forgiving if we are not able to pull off what we pull off, you know, but there is new criteria, so keep that in mind. So,
well, and you know, to what you're saying, and also, you know, whatever you put in your placement application, that should be your best guess at the time you submit that placement application. But you should certainly keep updating it as your plans change.
right.
Captain Vic, I see your finger up. What would you like to say, sir?
I met with the whole placement team in January, and the placement team has been encouraging people when they want to take a year off to take a year off. They've made it very clear they will not punish a camp that takes a year off because there's more camps than they can place. And so one of the growing pains we've had is there's been this explosion of camps. There were almost 1,200 theme camps placed last year. They're expecting a huge number of applications this year, assuming the burn goes forward. So if you want to take a year off, that won't bother placement at all. You'll do the things that Fixer mentioned. Be sure to tell placement what you've got in mind. Ask them what to do with the tickets. And that'll make their job easier. So, I mean, they've made it really clear that camps that want to take a year off or maybe come every other year would be welcome, and it won't.
That's true, Vic. But don't forget that if you were going to take a year off, they wanted you to tell them that before the DGS allocation. So,
well,
if you
couldn't very well do that.
I mean, now we're in a different world, you know, I agree. But that's what they wanted to hear was like, we're not coming. So they wouldn't have given you the DGS, and that DGS would have been allocated to next year.
Right,
So
and that's very fair, and that's something that is on our list of follow-up questions. Is, you know, obviously the world changed mightily from when we had the DGS cell. Is that still an option? And that's one of the things that we're going to ask and follow up on for you guys.
That's a really good question.
Updated guidance.
Yeah, if you're able to turn all your DGS back in, I don't think they have the money to buy them back, though. See, that's the problem, you know. I mean, Rick.
Shannon, who next?
Yep. In the same vein, there's a person who asked, will placement take into account that camps will likely have limited budgets this year when reviewing our applications? I'm concerned that we won't have the money we need to improve our community space, frontage, etc., and placement seems to expect that each camp improve their offerings to the community, better facade, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that you haven't put your placement application in yet. Now is the time to be having those conversations with placement. Be emailing in saying, you know, this is what we did last year. This is what we're thinking of doing this year. Obviously, given what's going on, our budget's not what it was. You know, what is your advice and recommendation about how to communicate that in our application? You know, the sort of extended guidance from placement as to, you know, world's different now with coronavirus. We have not gotten that yet. And that's one of the things that we're going to follow up and ask for is some more clarity on a couple of these different topics. But in the interim, while we're waiting for that, or, you know, in whatever form it ends up coming in, be aggressive and be active about emailing placement. Shannon, any other questions?
That's all I see so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to our next topic. I'm going to share my screen again. So now we're on to deposits. Now, this is more outwardly focused, as where we've been sort of talking inwardly focused. You know, a lot of you, for what you bring to the plot, you know, we're in Texas, so we got to rent a big truck, and we got to think about fuel, and we got to think about water, and we got to think about things that we normally have to reserve and make relationships and reservations with in advance. We're also building things where we have contracts with people, with welders or people that are helping us kind of do some things that we're not quite skilled enough to do ourselves. And how do you think about making reservations, paying deposits? You've signed contracts maybe. You know, what do you do if the event's canceled? How do you sort of manage those contracts? What's a force majeure provision in those contracts? And how might that impact you? Things look okay now, but what if you get notice 3, 4, 5 weeks out that the company you contracted with cannot fulfill that contract? What do you do? Well, from a Hoopla standpoint, we are well aware that the people that we deal with, Penske, United Site Services, people on those, they have attorneys, they have analysts, they're all going through their contracts, trying to think through what they can and can't do based on the very fine language in those contracts. And we highly urge you guys to read those contracts. Force majeure provisions, an act of God, an act of nature. There are sometimes language around those contracts that allow people in those contracts to back out. So you want to make sure that you understand what is in your contract around that and what might happen to you. But more importantly, and this is the thing that we're doing, we're sitting down and we're having very real and frank conversations with the people that we have contracts with, or the people we normally deal with. And we're saying, we don't know if this is going to happen this year. We've had a relationship with you for multiple years. Is there an opportunity to, if things don't happen, that we can push that forward, that we can push these deposits forward? How should we communicate with you? Just like communicating with placement's important, communicating with your service providers is extremely important, as is understanding what is actually in your contract. So from a Hoopla standpoint, we're all over our contracts and we're talking to everyone, and we're not bashful about trying to escalate and talk to managers and move up the chain in these organizations to find people that can help us. And we're also aware that some of the people that we're dealing with are not considered essential vendors or service providers in communities. And so it may be you get to a point where they'd like to provide or service your contract, but they're prohibited by shelter-in-place orders or something similar. So we're contingency planning. For transportation, we have a plan A, we have a plan B, we have a plan C, we have a plan D on individuals hauling trailers. We might have a convoy of trailers going out where we would have rented some big box trucks in the past. We're thinking through other options, but that's how we're approaching it with Hoopla. Yeti, how are you guys attacking this from your end? Oh, you're muted still. I'm going to stop sharing. We can unmute Yeti.
There we go. I'm going to do a little bit of a punt on this one because we are so small. We don't have a lot of this stuff happening for us, but I will echo what Marion said, that the org itself is trying to push off all payments until April, if not later. And then just echo what you said, Sandor, leverage your relationships.
Yeah, thank you. Captain Vic, what are y'all doing?
Really not an issue for our camp at this point. We really haven't signed any contracts for outside services or anything else. The only thing we've got tied up is the storage unit, which I mentioned before, but otherwise it's not an issue for us.
Okay. Laughing John?
Well, a couple of things. So first, if we do end up having to pay any deposits, I think it's the same thing as if our ongoing expenses, like renting a place for our trailer and things like that, where what we do in a case of like unexpected expenses, or in years where our expenses exceeded what we had projected and we've got to make up a gap, is we are very transparent with our camp. And we look at, to cover that, what would be the average cost per camper. And then we put out a request with a sliding scale, and it can start at 0 for those who are really more financially challenged in our camp, and then and give a higher range as well above that average, and ask people to give what they can. And that's always worked so far for us to be able to cover our expenses. We have not yet signed any contracts for this year, but I do want to echo what Candy said in the first session. She's unable to join us with this one, who has a bigger camp, a lot of contracts, and she is not paying any deposits until July. She is waiting until BLM signs off on this year's permit, and she is just putting off any of those service providers who are asking for deposits, and says that we will send them, we will overnight them, we will beam them into your bank account the next day after we find out if Burning Man is on for sure. So I just want to reflect her perspective as well.
That's very helpful. Fixer, what are y'all doing?
Well, I think to understand this a little better, we need to speak a little bit about what OSS is, what is probably happening with OSS in the org. So, I mean, you have a lot of OSS vendors, outside services vendors, who have already applied and they've already made their BLM application. I know that the BLM applications are not being processed at the same speed and schedule that they typically are. So I suspect that I'm pretty sure that they are, based on talking to some of my buddies that are OSS vendors, that also the org is not going to be moving ahead as quickly as normally with the OSS contracts, because those people have to pay a certain amount of money. There's no sense for the org to collect a bunch of money from OSS vendors that they have to just turn around and go through all that work to contract those people. So I suspect, based on part of what Marion said this morning, that even the OSS system within Burning Man is delaying those contracts until they know a little bit about what's going to happen. So I think that probably you couldn't even make a deposit on a lot of what people are talking about. Now, us personally, several years ago, when the push against OSS, camps, larger camps using too much OSS, I took that to heart. And where we used to buy water on Playa, we used to pay pumping on Playa, all that. We don't do we're almost completely self-reliant in a 150-person camp with no OSS services whatsoever. We have 2 big water trailers. The only thing we typically do is rent a Jenny, because I can't afford to risk a generator going down with no backup. So I might even rethink that this year. So I suspect that I wouldn't worry too much about it. I doubt people are expecting deposits yet, but I would definitely suggest getting a hold of your vendors that you typically use and just checking in with them, saying, look, we don't know what to do. If you start selling out, let me know, or let me know what we should do. It's just like one of the things we talked about last year in the TCS about how you deal with the OSS vendors. Know where they are on Playa, know their phone number. Do the same now. Get in touch with those people, check in with them, see what's going on. If you're typically using a lot of OSS, better get with those folks and find out what's up.
Yeah, very fair. Well, Shannon, any questions from the audience that we can talk through?
I don't see anything. There's nothing new yet.
Okay. Just a reminder to folks, if you have something or you want to comment, you want to weigh in here, please type 1 or hand in the chat with your comments and your additions. So we'll move on to the next topic. So the final of our 4 areas is, and the broadest, is planning. Some of the things that we're wrestling with are, what do we do if it just seems impossible to do what we normally do? We can't meet in person. We can't fundraise in the way that we normally do. How do we make progress on anything? At the same time, we're worried our camp might fall apart. We're a camp that thrives on constantly being together, constantly working on projects together. We're not able to do that. What do we do? How do we think outside of our camp and make an impact on our burner community and on the wider community as a whole? And then how do we look to the future if Burning Man happens or doesn't happen? We're a multi-year camp. We come every year. How do we stay focused on that goal and that mission? Well, I'll tell you from a hoopla standpoint, like I said earlier with tickets, we're scaling back. And we want to come if they're going to have Burning Man, but we're scaling back if that happens. And we're going to go about half of what we normally do. We're putting off all of our major infrastructure improvements. We're putting off the Newton vehicle we were going to build. We are conserving our cash. We are being very protective of the camp. And we have shifted a lot of our gatherings online. We're doing weekly Zoom calls, not unlike this. And sometimes those calls are just people sitting and having a beer together. We're also trying to think through what are things that we can do in our homes that might be additive. Are there crafts? Are there projects that we can work on? One of the things that we do every year, we give out necklaces, handmade necklaces in our carnival games. And that's something that we can be working on now. And if we don't end up having Burning Man this year, we just forward them on to next year. But it's something that we can be doing as a group. We've found that our camp is not fragile. Our camp is resilient. Our camp's a family, and very interested in staying in each other's lives, staying together, staying focused on the 10 principles and being burners and what that means. And that I hope that each of you find that your camps are just as resilient. And we're thinking about how do we take our strengths and have an impact on our community. We have bins of stuff, bins of N95 respirators. We have our masks. We have disposable gloves. We have, for our kitchen, we do food service, so we have a ton of those. We have all sorts of protective equipment. We have cleaning supplies. We have bins of cleaning supplies. And so the question is, how do we help each other and spend some time reaching out in the community and using the resources that we have. And then finally, and I love who's marked up my slides here. And finally, we are looking to the future. We're bigger, better, badder in 2021. And while we can't sort of bring it the way we normally do this year, we're definitely bringing it hard in 2021. So that's what we're doing. Let me go over to you, Yeti. What are y'all doing? And I'm going to stop sharing here so we can look at your faces.
Right now, I polled the village a couple weeks ago, just like, hey, what's everybody thinking? How's it all going? What are your plans? And everybody was like, we're just continuing on as if it's going to happen, and taking it week by week. What I would say is, don't be afraid to scale back if you need to scale back. It's come up in it's relevant to the advisory program, where there's been a couple of camps where like either we didn't get placed, or we got placed, but we don't have as many people this year. What do we do? And it's okay to not do the big thing that you were planning on doing or that you are used to doing, but still bringing something cool and creative and interesting and fun. We had a year where there's only 5 of us that were able to make it, and we did some weird shit, and it was and it worked out. And some of that stuff still like happens in camp, where it's like, oh yeah, that one year where we had nobody there are still these things that linger that happen, which are great little additive things to camp. So don't be it's okay to scale back, and again, communicate to placement that you're scaling back, and that they'll get it, and it's all good.
Thank you. Vic, what are y'all doing?
We're having conference calls every other week with the key people in the camp. Right now, I think if the burn goes ahead, I think we'll have enough people to do what we've done in the past. We don't have a lot of fancy infrastructure. So I think it doesn't affect us as much as it would a camp like Root Pile, which has a huge infrastructure. But we're meeting frequently to talk it over, and there's a lot of hand-holding going on. But we're not throwing in the towel. I mean, if there's a burn, we'll go. And if it's in 2020, we'll go in 2020, or if it's in 21, we'll go in 21.
Sure. Laughing John, what are y'all doing?
Well, we are living through, at least in our lifetimes, probably the biggest health and economic crisis that we've seen. And that can lead to a lot of fear and anxiety and anger and all of those kinds of feelings. And it's not healthy to feel those things all the time. Burning Man gives us a positive focus of something that we're excited about, that's energizing. And every year we put far more time into it before the event than during the event. And if we're not already enjoying that, then really what are we doing? I mean, hopefully we're enjoying the process in and of itself for Burning Man. So that's the attitude we're bringing for our camp, is that, Burning Man might not happen this year, but just working on it as if it's going to happen is a great diversion, and a very healthy diversion, I think, from being kind of absorbed in that anxiety all the time. So now there are some things that you may not be able to do now, building projects without all the people getting together. But again, it's an opportunity for creativity and innovation. For us, it is around what is it that we can do? what are the things we can be doing now to prepare for this year, next year, or what are things we can be doing for our community? Or if none of those things are happening, we're also starting a regular happy hour, a camp happy hour, so that, you know, we can just be together and you know, get in our Burning Man finest and maybe have someone do some DJing and just have that kind of community happening. That's such a positive focus for us every year. So it's really maintaining that I think is most important.
Thank you. Fixer, what's RuPaul doing?
RuPaul's me, dude. You know that. I mean, I got a lot of team leads, and RuPaul's not just me. But I started this in about 2006, 2007 with one person, me and a banjo, and at regionals. And then, you know, the thing about it is to me is this is basically my full-time pro bono. It's not even pro bono because I always lose money. I was hoping to break even this year, but I'm not giving up, and I can't. I mean, this is what I do every day of my life. You know, RuPaul and Burning Man is a small part of the world, and RuPaul is a small part of Burning Man and a very small part of the world, but it's a very large part of my world. And I work on it 8-10 hours a day, 50 weeks a year. And I don't work on it because of that 2 weeks we're on the desert, especially not for that 1 week that everybody else is in camp. I work on it because I'm a fucking crazy and I'm stupid and I'm obsessed. I can't help it. And I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to add people to camp. I had thought in the last week or so that, oh my gosh, ooh, woe is me. I'm going to have to sell a few DGS tickets to people that aren't going to join my camp. And then after I heard Marion this morning, I'm like, okay, I ain't, fuck it. I'm going to push. I'm going to make RuPaul the best camp on the playa. I'm going to continue to kick y'all's butts as being a better camp than all y'all. And that's what we got to do. We got to keep going, right? And that's what I'm going to do. But I'm working for the next burn, all right? I don't care when it is. I'm working for the next burn. We got to push ahead. That's all we can do. Just like Lavin John said, fuck yeah, I'll be there at the next burn. And goddamn, you can guarantee you, RuPaul will be at the next burn picking some bluegrass for y'all. So y'all come on, drink some shine, eat some barbecue. We'll fucking be there. All right.
That's one of my favorite places to visit. I love it. Well, Shannon, anyone out there wants to weigh in?
There is. Thank you for that, Fixer, and everyone who just made those hilarious and uplifting comments. Thank you. We have Jen Headley from District. I'm going to switch my mic off and then switch her on. Hold on.
Okay.
1 second.
No, District's hard to kick their butt. By golly.
They have a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, y'all kick my butt. All right. I'll give up.
Can you guys hear me? Can you see me? Am I there?
And welcome.
Okay, cool. Thank you guys, first of all, for doing this. I think this is, it's been weighing on my mind and my other campmates' mind as well. And most of you know District, we're big, we're loud, we play music. There's 10 of us that work year round. It is the best job I've never gotten paid for. So, and right now,
like Fixer.
Yeah, exactly. And so we talk to each other every day. Like the other 3 people that I'm on the board with are my 3 best friends. So, but we have really started to look at if we can even make it out to the playa this year if Burning Man happens, because we have canceled 6 fundraisers in 3 months, which takes our the budget we need to get out there down to 40% if we're lucky. And that budget is for things that are like our trucking to bring out our containers, our sound system. We're pretty much like a very bare bones camp as far as what we do, but all of it goes into, you know, our booze for our bar, things like that. And we're trying to figure out if we can actually do that. And the other thing is our build weekends kick off. This was supposed to be our first one. And we usually do 13 to 16 weekends. Like every weekend we do something year round. And those aren't gonna happen. And it's something where we're looking at this, like, do we bring out half of it? Do we bring out a small part? And if that's the case, you know, is it personally, just like, you know, I can't remember who said it, like, I lose money every year. We pay for all of our own travel. I fly out from DC for the build weekends. So I have money invested there, but as a theme camp lead, I don't feel that I can ask people to do the above and beyond right now if they are financially strained. And we get donations because we're 100% volunteer run. We pay for our contracts for power and trucking and lighting on playa. But there's this big moral conundrum of, I don't want somebody to donate $15 to district. I want them to give it to their local food bank. I want them to do that. So I don't know if you guys have dealt with that yet as well. So just kind of, mine's a two-part thing, just kind of saying, like, for us, we're such a big operation that we don't know if we can get out there. And that's something that I've been talking to our placer about. And, 2021 will be back. It'll be big. We'll probably get more containers, but at a bigger bar. And I'd love some of that moonshine too. But in the interim, like, how do you guys deal with the moral dilemma of, should we be throwing a big party when people are losing their jobs and getting sick? Like, that's something that I'm really struggling
Jen,
with.
do you think that the model of a camp that kind of needs that much, I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do, but do you think that the camp model of a camp that needs that much outside fundraising to pull off their playa presence is maybe at risk because of the new world, or the new, even the new attitudes of people saying, oh, well, Mayan warriors shouldn't be out raising money with their art car to pull off what they do, and that kind of things. Do you think that maybe that whole model is somewhat at risk because of these kind of things?
I think so. And for us, we have things down over the past couple of years. We've tried to become more sustainable, and that it's a work ethic. So regardless of, we fly out to the ranch, we are out there, we're power washing the containers and painting them and stacking the dosecki's up in the truck. But I think that we are at risk. And I talked to a few other people from really large camps, and I think that we could, if this goes forward, there could be a lot less really big camps. That's another thing for us to think about. Are we doing too much? Is this something where we're getting away from that? From when we just had our 2 Mackeys and our budget truck. And also too, since we're such a big camp, do we have a larger social responsibility? Because we do have these resources, and I'm the newbie. I've only been doing this for 8 years. My co-lead, Kramer, this is his 21st burn. So, how do we change it so that we can help the community more, and then also figure out, can we sustain this?
Yeah.
I don't know, we have people that have already talked to me who are planning on coming, but they're in the UK, and they're like, we don't know if we're even going to be able to get on a plane, or if we want to get on a plane.
Right.
So it's a whole new world out there, and it's kind of scary.
Well, I'll tell you, we wrestle with this all the time because our camp is so geographically focused, and we're all in one community, and it's such an important part of who we are. And we had Hurricane Harvey in our community, and we've had flooding, and we had these big disasters where, Burning Man, well, for someone like me, year round, just like Fixer, year round, I'm doing Burning Man stuff, but it does, in some respects, have a place in a hierarchy of how people live their lives. And I've had to make my peace with the idea that, if it comes down to it and I got to take care of my 7-year-old mother, I may not be able to do Burning Man the way I want to do it for a little while. And that's okay. And, it's okay if my camp's not going to bring it in the way that we always bring it. We're damn sure going to come back and do what we want to do when things are better. And if things are changed forever, then we'll adapt to that. But, what I hear you sort of saying is that there's a real question about, of the limited resources that you have, where should you put them? And, are you a little bit of remorse about maybe not being able to prioritize Burning Man as much as you'd like to be. For me personally, I think it's okay. And I don't know what the rest of the panelists think about how they're sort of thinking through those things. But that's how I personally view it.
Yeah, I'll weigh in a little bit. As I was mentioning earlier, I mean, looking at scale and that forcing some creativity around, you know, how you're going to envision yourself in 2020. But if Burning Man happens, but I have to let you know, the idea of Burning Man having half as many people and all the camps, a lot of camps scaled way back, is actually super exciting. I mean,
Old school
it
Burning
is.
Man.
It is like that. I've gone to Burning Man like 23 times. It's like, wow, that would be really, really fun, I think. So, you know, if you have that attitude, I would love it if you came back out with your one, you know, U-Haul truck and your two Mackies. You know what? You know, that would be awesome. I'd come. So that's where I'm at.
Well,
We'd probably be more likely to come to district if you only had a couple hundred people there.
honestly,
Instead of 10,000.
I hate crowds. I love build week, and I barely even go out there. I usually sleep from like Wednesday through Saturday of burn week because I'm so exhausted by the time it happens. So maybe scaling back would be good. And that really, you know, we always try to improve every year, and that improving is like, oh no, let's add lighting, let's add performers, let's add this. And we have some phenomenal people that we work with. And I'm also really concerned about so many of them, like our performers who, you know, donate their time and energy. And right now, the performance troupe, they are out of work. So I don't know if they'll be able to make it on their own too, just from a financial standpoint. And I don't know. It's good to talk to people who are kind of freaking the fuck out like I am. So
Jen, do you think that your fundraising and your outside things you do are more of an outreach, Burning Man outreach thing as much as anything, which is important too? You know, that some of the events you do for fundraising are really Burning Man outreach, right? I mean,
Yep.
My camp is totally different because we're completely insular, because what we're trying to do is make fun of hillbillies and make all the burners, you West Coast fuckers, understand that we're all not just a bunch of redneck racists, you know? So that's part of the whole concept of RuPaul, is that it's an art project which tries to show that people like us are maybe not like you think we are, you know? But on a lot of what you're doing on your outreach things, you're probably doing a lot of Burning Man outreach too, right? I mean, is that an important part of it?
We are. And what we try to do, we usually do a couple events in different cities, but it's, you know, we try to bring out people that, you know, to vend for us, that make jewelry or make artwork, and include those. We're trying to do a lot more with artwork now than with just music. We don't want to be known as just the techno house music camp. But in addition,
but then don't think that you're not doing outreach to the world, because you are, right? I mean, don't think that your fundraisers are not helping the world, because they are. You know, that's what point I'm trying to help you make.
Yeah.
Well, you know, us, the old timers, like John and myself and some of the rest of you, will say to anyone that listens that we had just as much fun, you know, 15, 20 years ago as we are now. And we didn't have jack shit. We just had a couple of pop-up, you know, shade structures, a couple of tents, and a cooler, you know, and we had a hell of a lot of fun. And so we don't need the fancy infrastructure to have a good time or to make Burning Man worth doing. And you know, that's certainly where we've been going in Burning Man, but I still prefer the small little camps tucked away in the back, you know, with a few people just putting it together. And that may be where we'll end up if there is a burn this year or next year.
Well, thank you, Jen. We're here for you if there's anything we can do to help you. We're obviously appreciate all that you're doing. Appreciate things that everybody's doing. You know, I want to circle back to Shannon. Anyone else we need to weave in before we go on to the next slide?
Mark Richards just commented, have we discussed as involved theme camp organizers, artists, and key supporters how to mitigate risk for DGS sales into BMorg support dollars, but instead put the onus for org support as donation-based and not ticket-based? That seems
I mean,
like a very
there are a lot of ideas floating around right now about, the DGS money, the DGS tickets, what happens to those, the main sale, FOMO, what is the right home for all of those things? And, I garner a lot of confidence because I can see this, and I can see people and talk with people like Level, and I, hear people that were talking today, like Marion, and see surveys going out, and I know that they're investing a lot of time and effort thinking very carefully about this. They know that they've got to get this right if they're going to keep these camps coming, because a lot of people, if it's not done correctly, that relationship with Burning Man gets harmed. So I don't know what the right answer is yet, but I am very confident that a lot of thought and care is going into thinking it through. What do the rest of the panelists think about that sort of stuff?
Well,
Sandor, I was thinking, based on someone this kind of things, we're going to be giving suggestions to the org based on these meetings, and something someone said a little while ago, kind of relating to what this question was that, we're not going to be pushing tickets forward to 2021, but we're also concerned about what happens if we don't go. What happens to those DGS? Do they just get sold? Do we sell to whoever? Blah, blah, blah. How does it affect our future placement? It would be an interesting suggestion to the org, and I'm interested in the chat, hear what people think about this, is what if an entire camp said, we just can't go. Please just take our DGS tickets and carry those over till next year. We can't go. We've already paid for them. We won't use them, but let's just let those DGS, cancel them and carry them over till next year. We want to carry our whole camp over to next year because we just can't go, but we don't want to sell all these DGS to who knows who and create some kind of a weird underground market. It'd be an interesting suggestion, I think, to the org to say, if a camp just can't go, can we somehow carry over, just like Vic was saying, right, Vic, that before you could say, I'm not going to go, but now we already have our tickets and the world has changed. It'd be an interesting suggestion, I think,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't do it because
point.
I'm totally insane, but some camps may just want to carry over to next year, right?
It's a fair point. I'm sensitive to the fact that there is an organization and their employees, and they have headquarters and projects and stuff going around year round. And hopefully they're taking a hard look at that and thinking through their budget and cutting the fat where they can cut the fat. And I am hopeful that there are going to be some opportunities to roll, but I understand if there's not. I mean, I'd probably just donate my ticket money, but I understand that's not possible for everybody. And I was very encouraged to see the survey today that they were asking questions about that and thinking through that. Vic, I don't know if you were about to say something, but I wanted to come back to you. Okay. Well, let's hit the last slide and then we'll throw it back open again. I'm going to share my screen again. Want to talk for a moment about continuing this conversation. We have a lot of good discussion, a lot of good insights that people are sharing. We want to keep this going. We don't want it to stop here. We've just sort of a tip of the iceberg on some of these topics. And there's a lot of places out there where we can continue this conversation. Camp is something that we mentioned at the top. If you need help sort of thinking through some of these and you want an experienced TCO to bounce ideas off, please sign up and let's get you matched with somebody. If you
make sure they understand what camp is, Sandor. It's the Camp Advisory and That's the program, mentorship program.
That's what we talked about at the top. That's the program that Yeti and I are co-leading, and Vic is involved with, and Laughing John's involved with, and Fixer's been involved with in the past. And that's TCOs helping TCOs. And so if you are a camp and you could benefit from having a veteran TCO help you think through some stuff, please sign up. If you're a veteran TCO and you want to help camps, please sign up. We'd love to match you with camps. But that's the first link. The second link is camp has a small Facebook group. It's mostly been the advisors, but we're going to open that up. And so if you'd like to join us for that, you're welcome to do that. There are big Facebook groups for TCOs out there. The Burning Man Theme Camp Advisors group is several thousand people. It's a lot of snark. but you can also get some good information there. And then Fixer is the admin for the Burning Man Camp Organizer Discussion Group. That's just a couple hundred people, a smaller group. And then there are sector groups, functional area groups, regional groups. I'm the admin for a Houston regional group. There are a lot of people out there that are interested in helping you out. ePlaya, that's somewhat active. I mean, there are people that are getting on there and asking questions. We encourage you to do that. And then we have 2 email addresses that we've talked about that you should feel free to email early and often as much as you like. Camp support is our help desk. We are routing questions to departments and to other people, other volunteers, and then people within the Burning Man project. And then placement, you should be very, very free in emailing placement with whatever questions you have. If your plans are changing, if you're not sure what you're going to do and you need some help, please think about emailing placement and getting some guidance there. So before we kind of come back out into to sort of any remaining questions, just want to take a minute and say thank you. Thank you to everyone involved here. Thank you to all the panelists. You've been fantastic. Thank you to Shannon for moderating and facilitating this discussion. And thank you to all of you TCOs that are doing what you do on a day in, day out basis. This event would not be the same. It could not exist without you. And we're so appreciative of all of you guys. And, you know, with that said, I want to throw it back open. We've got 5-10 minutes left. Whatever anybody wants to answer, we'll try and get to as many things as we can. Shannon, anyone else out there we should weave in?
Hello again. Just checking here. Somebody mentioned that the survey, the questionnaire, not the survey that I just posted. The feedback survey is what I just posted. If anyone wants to give their feedback. And then Poem, I am checking to see if the questionnaire that I posted at the beginning of the chat is actually closed. It might be due to your time zone. And they are saying that it looks like there might be an auto close deadline on this. We'll get some feedback to y'all as soon as possible, but I just wanted to mention that. Other than that, I don't see any more comments or questions right now.
Great. All right, well, we'll wrap it up there.
Yep, this is being recorded, and I think, Sander, you could possibly somehow share this last slide with everyone so they can have the links.
Absolutely. I'm going to post these slides, all these groups that you see here, the list of questions that we have at placement, these slides, we're going to be very active about going into those and posting those so that people can find them. If they end up giving us a tool to reach out to all the people that attended today, we'll certainly do that. But thank you again. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for all that you're doing. And we're here to help you. Just send those emails in, and we'd love to have you involved in camp. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sander.
Thanks, Sander. And thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Good job, y'all.